Right. Obviously, the first precept, as was mentioned, this is really the goal. But if you look closely, it actually describes precedence of discovery of sciences and stimulation of the intellectual capacity of mankind occurs after the new revelation. So this is the important portion, that these cycles, the divine cycles, these manifestations that come, unleash basically that potentiality that is locked in human or has gone astray. So it renews basically fresh the cycle. But interestingly, the first paragraph devises that even discovery of physical reality is dependent on this revelation that comes from God. So this, as you see, every new civilization has succeeded by presence of this new standard, new moral standard, new laws, metaphysical laws that have been brought by these manifestations to release the humanity from the bonds that they created for themselves. So this is a good example of it. Is during Christianity, before 6th century and between 6th century where Muhammad appeared and 14th century, which was the start of Renaissance, actually Muslim Muslim religion created Muslim civilization, where Christians at that time were in, they called themselves those ages as dark ages generally. So what made basically few thousand nomads from Arabia without any education or any technical knowledge bring about this Islamic civilization, that its libraries and sciences, everyone from all over the corners of the world would come to really study in their universities, to learn arts of government or sciences, medicine, and so on and so forth. Where basically, if you look deep into it, how could few thousand men bring down empires like Persian Empire? Reality was that these messages of basically equality of man, which was brought by Muhammad, and abolishing the caste system that existed at that time, which was created by prior religion. In case of that part of the world was Zoroastrianism, which basically created certain caste. This new Muslim religion abolished that lock that they had, and very few people could even go to universities or study sciences, because that was basically reserved, was a privilege for kings and their offspring, as well as the ecclesiastical basically people. So they were controlling the taxation, education, and created that caste system. So before even Muslim would come to a town or city, the people there would revolt because they wanted to get out of that bondage that was created by not prior religion really, but those doctors of prior religion that deteriorated the religion to a point that was causing harm to the society. Right. So Zoroastrianism, basically through interference of basically their priest, has deteriorated and become the winter basically of spiritual world at the time. When Muhammad came in, that was basically the spring, the renewal, and basically getting rid of those superstitions or those laws that were put by those religious doctors to basically lock society and harm its progress. When Muhammad came in, and as you see, it's less than, I think, few decades, Islam penetrated into Spain, into even went up to Russia, to China, to India, even Pakistan. So it spread very rapidly because it was a message of God, and it brought in equality of man that didn't exist at that time. So this, for example, elimination of prejudice against race was something that Islam brought in, where it didn't exist before. This abolition of slavery was brought by Islam into, and you see, ironically, remnant of prior religions still even today exist in India. There is still caste system exists in India, which was really abolished by Muhammad. So not complying with these metaphysical laws cause harm to humanity as a whole, and of course society as individuals, areas that do not accept these metaphysical laws. But the first paragraph's key point is that these discoveries, this ever-advancing civilization succeed revelations of God. So this is really key element of the first paragraph. Of course, these metaphysical laws are designed to address the use of the discoveries that occurs during those succeeding those release of humanity to be able to discover it. But reality is this, that those instruction sets comes from God to make sure that humanity doesn't abuse those discoveries. And a good example and warning comes by the manifestation of God in terms of if they do not accept these new metaphysical laws, use of the new sciences, when they're not regulated, causes harm to the society. A good example of it is Baha'u'llah's coming actually foretold the world wars that would occur, both First and Second World War. And if unity of mankind is not achieved, the system of government is not changed to governing by people as opposed to authoritarian regimes that existed at the time, the whole humanity would get engulfed in war and destruction. So it's quite intriguing that this instruction set of how to harness the power of new discoveries in the physical reality comes before those physical realities are even discovered. Right. So this is very important to know that obviously this new cycle that is necessary, as it was mentioned here, follows religion like any other complex system in physical reality are bound by physical laws. And we discussed a few sessions before, laws of entropy means that any complex system would deteriorate if there is no infusion of energy from outside. So this is a common physics, basically, that exists anywhere in the universe. So this particular process of disintegration of religion is part of the system itself. And as the capacity of humanity, spirit of man expands, new laws are necessary to harness, to basically control the new discoveries that would come. So this ever-advancing civilization, which is the purpose of man, God made this purpose for man to really reach his potential. And many other prior religions have basically promised this day of God on earth. This day of God on earth is where basically humanity becomes one unit. As we discussed before, religion itself, there is only one religion, it's the religion of God. These manifestations come during different times to conduct this role of humanity, to make it achieve this new civilization that we're discussing. So there is a progressive revelation. That means God sends messengers, and they're all equal. They all come from the same source. And they reveal these new laws to really get humanity to the next stages. So there is no difference in terms of the original message that basically these manifestations of God bring to humanity generally. But as the capacity, as the new physical discoveries occur, there's new set of laws are required to really make sure that this ever-advancing civilization doesn't derail. This is the most important aspects about these new generations, new manifestations that are coming in. But internally, these messages themselves should not be basically counted on, or these religions that we see based on followers of the religion. That means that whether it was from Adamic cycle, which was a prophet, to basically Muhammad, all those messengers, all metaphysical laws or spiritual laws that they brought in were objective at the time or the cycle that they came in. The problem is that as these cycles terminate, means that their new discoveries will be coming. This new dispensation brings in the new metaphysical laws to control these new discoveries. So there is really one religion. Fractionation that occurs in the religion, or deterioration of religion, occurs because of man and free will of a man that takes this instruction set, interprets these laws to take benefit from it, to the demise of other human beings. But generally, this notion regarding planned corruption doesn't really exist. There is no planned corruption within the doctrine of any religion. As a matter of fact, Abdul Baha mentions that all religions are, when they come during their period, is designed to be universally accepted by all human beings. The reason of their demise has to do with the followers of the religion. So if Christianity didn't become worldwide, or Islam didn't become a worldwide religion and dominate humanity, is because of the failure of the follower of the religion. It has nothing to do with the doctrine that was brought in. Now, a good example of fractionation that obviously existed prior to Baha'i religion, and in this promised day, Baha'u'llah mentions that his religion or his revelation will not fall into the same condition that other religion has fallen into. That means there will not be two different sects of Baha'i religion, for example. And the reason is this: when you look at the Islam, the minute Muhammad lifted up Ali and said, "He is my successor," he created the metaphysical laws to really abolish in Islam the laws of tradition. What was the laws of tradition? Was that caliphs or elders would be successor, not basically a God-appointed successor or guardian of the faith. Where Muhammad abolished this law, what did happen? The minute he died, people said, no, we're going to go back to what we knew, which is, although Ali became the fifth caliph anyways, later on, but reality was that the same day that Muhammad basically passed on, his religion split. Well, the covenant, this is true in terms of obviously humanity. God decided that humanity reached a stage in their development, thank you, that actually this manifestation, there are two major aspects about this manifestation which is unique. One is actually its completeness. That means that Baha'u'llah brought in all letters of knowledge to the world. So there is nothing left for interpretation. The second item, which is unique, is that he abolished the station of basically priesthood in Baha'i religion. That means that humanity or each individual have reached a point in their lives that after they become adults, as was mentioned, there is a covenant. That means that we are responsible for all and every action we do ourselves. So independent investigation of the truth is a mandatory obligation of each Baha'is to comprehend and learn the writing without any interpreter. So it's incumbent on each and every person to read, have the knowledge. So these two elements regarding abolition of the basically priesthood in Baha'i religion and completeness of the revelation is the differentiator that prevents this breakage that is occurred in the prior religions in general. Yes. In human culture or human nature, you tend to, because our brains are subjective, you tend to use the information to your benefit. A good example of it, if you look at the between 6th century and 17th century in Europe, dark ages of Christianity, this relationship of the interpreter of the laws of God, which was the priest, and the person that was submitting himself to this particular law was a very cozy relationship, because they were basically trading currencies, which the priest was selling God's favor, and people were donating money. So the key really is not that people would do this unconsciously. They're doing it consciously.
Using different cheeses.
No. There is no cheese. You see? They are using the system without, right. No. The key here is very important. It's not that if you can go to a priest by saying 1,000 Hail Marys, all your prior sins are washed, why would you lose that benefit? Why do you want to lose it? So this new manifestation, which really puts the onus on the individual, it doesn't matter who told you what to do, right? You're responsible for the outcome. There is nowhere to hide, no one to hide behind. This is really what the difference is. It's not that people don't realize the basically situation.
They know this.
Exactly, they are using it, and that's the point. By the way, Jesus' intention was never this particular situation. This had nothing to do with Christianity or Bible. What's practiced now had nothing to do with it. It's the humanity that took this instruction set, adopted it to what they could use it to their benefit to achieve their basically insisting self. That's what they did. And this is really part of the system of religion, which is a complex system. Okay, so the world of souls, a new bounty. That means that you're opening up these new manifestations, are giving a new set of instructions to the souls. Souls are individual souls. The world of morality reformation. That means that it was formed before, it deteriorated. The new manifestation comes and reinstate the old, basically, laws in the right form. So they reinterpret what was given that humanity destroyed, basically. So reformation, the world of divine effulgence, ever new bestowals. So these new messages on top of basically correcting this interjection of humanity into those laws, not only they have to bring back the old religions, they're adding to it for the new generation of discoveries. But this doesn't mean that the Baha'i religion will not deteriorate. It will deteriorate like any other religion because it follows the same laws of entropy. The question really goes back of whether this orderly transition of the divine power would be relinquished from the universal hashs of justice in a proper manner to the new revelation and whether people would follow it. And obviously, as we see from writings of the Bab and Baha'u'llah, that would be also very challenging as well. So humanity willingly will not follow the manifestation of God. And this issue related to first time in the history of mankind, a new revelation came in and mandated that you cannot propagate words of God by sword. You cannot force anyone to accept it. This is another aspect of Baha'i religion that doesn't exist in prior religion. This process, you see, there is no deterministic doctrine in Baha'i religion. That means that there is no planned event that are occurring. It's the humanity's capacity to basically reach a particular goal or a particular area. As I was mentioning before, Islamic revelation was not planned to be destroyed or a certain process. The key really relates to this particular free will that exists, that God created, by the way, in combination with these messages that come from God. This combination causes, if the followers of the religion follow strictly those laws, not only fractionation of religion doesn't occur, the moral standard will not deteriorate. The problem we're facing again is this, that this process of free will interferes with the laws of God. See, we know metaphysical laws are exactly like physical laws. If you jump at the 5th floor of a building, you're gonna come down. It doesn't matter whether you're rich, you're poor, you're religious, you're not. So these are same metaphysical laws there are. If anyone violates them, eventually they will come down. So the question is that can you monolithically, and this is the point, does religion come to really make humans like a robot? That means that they cannot do harm. It's not the case. Religion is the set of instruction that eliminates error. Means what? Means that if, for example, you pick smoking. You say smoking is bad for you, science has proved that you're going to get lung cancer. But if someone perceives in their mind, because our brain are subjective, perceives in their mind, if I smoke, I'm going to add 10 years to my life, what would happen? By mistake, this person is smoking, thinking that he's going to live longer. Religion comes to show people that, to eliminate that error. Now you know smoking would kill you. Now your free will chooses to comply with it or chooses to go against it. So this is really what the difference is. Now, when you have this set of objective instruction set that eliminates error, they say slavery is harmful. Harmful to the individual, harmful to the society. Many wars occurred because of this particular process to eliminate this ill from the society. Interestingly, Christianity, for example, eventually they figured out that this particular process is not efficient. Slaving humans, putting them in the fields is very inefficient because they needed labor and the labor was locked up picking cotton. Then they revolted and they created wars to release them because they needed them in the industrial north to use them as laborers. To, again, society would increase its capacity. So any abnormal laws or violation of metaphysical laws has a severe consequences. Same way that violating physical laws have severe consequences. So this free will that people want to take advantage to themselves, this would always exist. people that do not want to follow laws of God. The civilization, like sciences, like metaphysical laws, is cumulative, doesn't go down. You see? So when you see Newtonian laws, for example, when Einstein came in, they didn't disrupt Newtonian laws. Sciences are objective as is ever incremental. That means that it doesn't disappear. It's always incremental. Civilization of humanity is always incremental. It doesn't go back. This cycle that takes humanity to the next stage, that cycle deteriorates and requires renewal. And that's really what we're reading here. That's what the really differentiator is. So the reality is this, that those instruction sets that came from last manifestations are altered, basically, and causing harm. So these new instruction sets that come in not only restores the old instruction, it brings in new instruction sets so people don't bury their child alive because that happened to be non-productive member of the for example, family. And this is what they were doing. Why? Because that was natural to them. Because that child wouldn't survive anyways. So the question is that this is the tradition, and when Muhammad came in, he restored status to basically female gender, basically, where it didn't exist prior to Muhammad at the time in the areas that he came about. So this is really the first aspect is, for example, equality of man and woman in the New Age. Baha'u'llah brought this in 1800s, this law, and you see these metaphysical laws that is released in the world, and in Christian terms they call these laws Holy Spirit. It exists, basically, and people hear it, and their spirit is designed to comprehend it and execute it. They know it is really it's a necessity of time, equality of man and woman. So if you look at most of the new laws or new quote-unquote Western civilization progress, if you look at the source of it in moral standard, actually came from Baha'i religion. If you look at, for example, United Nations to resolve the conflicts of the world, daughter of Woodrow Wilson that initiated the League of Nations after the First World War was a Baha'i. So these elements of Baha'i religion is intertwined with what Western culture thinks of their progress in civilization generally. This equality of man and woman is one of them. That at the time that in Iran or Persia at the time, that men could have 4 legal wives and as many concubines as they could afford, the rights of women was part of the asset of the man. They could basically do anything they wanted. Imagine a new dispensation coming in saying that women can have equal rights to men. They can inherit wealth as men do. They could divorce their husband. So it's completely revolutionary in the process of course, doctors of religion that took Islam and twisted it so much that created such a dilapidated position for women. This was no intention of Muhammad or Quran to do this to women. But guess what? Humanity did this, altered it to a point where it created harm. Now, the question really becomes that even in the Western civilization, which the concept of equality or this women's right has, by the way, gone quite astray right now. It's lost there. Can it really be effective if the entire set of the instruction is not accepted? I'll give you a paradoxical situation. So this is the whole point. When the new manifestation comes in, the set of instruction sets or these metaphysical laws are fully integrated. You cannot violate one of them and accept the other one. A good example of it is this. If you can't go to any woman in the Western culture in the United States and ask them, do you like to have equality between man and woman? There's no one that says, no, I don't want it. Maybe few, but they're, right? Because to the eyes of God, how you're born, your physical characteristics has nothing to do with your soul. Your soul is genderless, and that's what God looks at. So the equality is there, and it's born at the time of inception when God emanates the soul in that body. That body happened to be a woman or a man. So the soul is the same. So the question really goes back. Now let's assume all women accept this. Now, if you go to the Western culture and you say, look, do you know what causes basically discomfort to women, or you have atrocities that occur against women? What is really involved? What laws are violated that causes this harm to women? If you look at it, it's alcohol. All rapes and all the atrocities that are occurring, alcohol is involved. You look at domestic violence against women. If you look, 90-some percentage or alcohol is involved. But ask the same woman, say, would you like to give up that wine? Say, no, that's mine. You can't take mine away. You see? So you cannot take an instruction set and pick and choose what you like to apply. So this is the reason when the new manifestation comes in, the instruction set or these metaphysical laws has to be adopted in its entirety. Otherwise, it loses its effectiveness. Because this is the new law. This is reality of religion. You see, what has happened is this. Because our brain is subjective, anything we hear, we translate it to the meaning to us of that word itself. For example, religion, the name religion has different meaning to different people. And this is exactly what you're pointing at. Religion itself has two major pillars. One is execution of all the instruction set that came from the last manifestation, and recognition of the last manifestation, which is a mirror of God, basically. Whatever comes is reflect. These are the twin requirements of definition of religion. Neither one is acceptable without the other. So the religion is not profession of being a Christian or Muslim or a Baha'i. Professing to be Jesus is Lord or Jesus is the Son of God doesn't do anything. Is the execution of laws that brought by Jesus is definition of religion. So the question really goes back of these set of laws that came in has to be understood and executed in its proper context. Like a good example is that Baha'is believe, and these are new metaphysical laws, that the human soul is born pure. The innate characteristics that we're born with are all good. All good. There is no human being that is born defectively from a spirit point of view. Physically, we may have many defects. Even our brain chemicals may not be attuned. So go ahead, please. Sure. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I was trying to look for your laws. You kept saying
Right.
laws, and I'm wondering if they're the same as the universal principles.
They call them differently. The key reality is that physics is what you can experiment. You can repeat the same process, right? If you throw an apple down, it always comes down. Then you think, what made it come down? Then you go and obviously through sciences you discover that there is a law of gravity, that larger masses attract small masses. And you see, Earth is very big. So this is, I can repeat this process over and over. Because our brains are not objective, it's subjective. That means what we see is registered to us. Now, the problem is that a subjective brain sometimes gets erroneous information to our brain. A good example of it is this. You take a hot, 3 pots, right? One is very cold, is near 0. One is hot, is 89 degrees. And one is lukewarm, is 50 degrees. You put 2 fingers in the very hot and very cold one, right? This one feels very cold, this one is very hot. You pull them out, put them in the middle one. The one that was cold, in the hot water, it says, wow, this has become cool. This water is cool. The one that came from the cold pot, it says, wow, this is too warm. It's the same pot, giving 2 separate information to your brain.
But what
You
are
see?
they? You're saying
So-
there isn't.
No, that's why we devised sciences. That means that you can objectively say that apple would fall even if I'm twisted. Because my leg may be up and I see this apple going up. I say, no, that cannot happen. I may be reversed. Apple always comes down, you see? So the same exists in metaphysical laws. Metaphysical laws is the laws. Look, anywhere in the universe you go, whatever law exists is objective. That means it's repeatable. It works under every condition. The same thing works in metaphysical laws. That means that this is not against religion, it's completion. Total reality is physical reality plus metaphysical reality. That means that discrimination of women is a law. That if you violate it in any condition, it causes harm. So these are laws. Now, if you look at anywhere in the universe, if I... No, I'm trying to get there so she understands. That everything in universe, including our spirit, is governed by laws.
Yes, I was trying to understand, like, what are they?
Okay,
Because
these are... Okay,
I do understand the quantum physics, and
good.
we're talking about everything scientific. Like, there's a law of polarity.
That's right.
The law of, what is it, gestation? I'm wondering, is that what you're talking
No,
about? That's what I'm trying to figure
no,
out.
no.
What is
The question of metaphysical laws is laws that governs complex. Okay, let's start with soul. A soul of a man is unit, is simple. That means is one entity. The difference between a soul of a man is unitary and a soul of a manifestations, because in the appearance they look exactly like us, right? Their soul is pre-existent. That means that it doesn't get infused at the time of conception with them. It's a pre-existent soul that has innate knowledge. We don't have any innate knowledge when we're born. We're pure, we're basically no knowledge whatsoever when we're born. They have this innate knowledge. That's why they can predict, they know about events that occurred in the past. They can predict the future. They're basically atemporal. They're timeless. So they have the knowledge of physical reality and metaphysical reality. So what happens, this soul, individual soul that is in us, anything that is complex, as we know, laws of entropy, it deteriorates, it splits, it goes to its component. Soul of a man cannot, because it's unitary, it's simple. So soul at the time of conception becomes basically fused with the body and it lives forever. Now, the laws that manifestation bring in, there are 2 types of laws. One is common in every religion. Every religion, they're all exactly the same.
The commandments.
No.
Like thou shalt not kill, or you
No. Let me explain. There are two different commands. One are actually, as Jesus said, these are God made man in his own image. That means that the potentiality of the attributes of God is within us. What are those? So,
I like that.
sorry?
I like that.
Oh, it's Jesus' word. It's not mine. Nothing. If I astray of what I'm saying is from me, please correct me because I shouldn't say anything from myself. So the question really goes, so the set of laws that are common and ever changeable is like these laws that are what's called attributes of God. Now, they come and reiterate kindness, grace, benevolence, generosity, truthfulness. No manifestation comes in ever came or will come that says, look, truthfulness is a law, God said change it. Right? So this set of instruction that all manifestation reiterate relates to this basically attributes of God that exist, potentiality exists with us. But again, it's up to us to reach, and there is no limit to it. If I'm a scientist, physicist, for example, I have no better advantage of getting to grace level of somebody else that has no knowledge of physics whatsoever. So the equality of potentiality in our soul to reach the destination, to reach a level of love, for example, for someone, is unlimited. It's up to us, volition that we have to get to that point. So this set of laws that ever comes and reiterated, which are really, these are attributes of God. All those set of instructions are permanent, they're always going to be there. The rest of them are basically come in based on capacity of the man to accept it and execute it. See? If you bring laws that humanity cannot comprehend, it would be useless. And this is really the free will that God, it's a grace of God that God made us this way, that gave us the free will to choose to know him, to choose to abide by his laws. Not forced. So the difference between us and an animal is that we have a soul, they don't. They do things, they're an automaton, they're a machine, basically. They're programmed to do certain things, which is they have to propagate their species. And that's their goal. That's it.
On a lower train food.
Sorry?
That they are on the lower.
That's correct. So what happens is that humans are completely different. They have these souls, the instruction sets comes in, but as the humanity grows, as the sciences, knowledge. Now, so we have physical reality, metaphysical reality. As the knowledge, can you measure love? We can't measure it. There's no physical device that can do this. Can you measure grace of God? Sorry?
You can see it by its action.
Right, but the question was the scientifically. The same thing occurs, so there is a boundary, ever-moving boundary between physical laws and metaphysical laws. Ironically, they have proven, for example, that prayer helps the human person that is sick, not physically. So metaphysical activities has impact on physical laws. So as these new laws discoveries occurs, this border between metaphysical and physical laws moves. We don't really care because it moves, it makes some of the metaphysical realities provable in physical reality. That behavior of human being kind, is helpful to themselves, to their family, to the society. See? So these are really metaphysical laws and means that it has to be abide by. So this is really the difference between the two physical, but it's one reality. The total reality is one reality.
I think that was her question.
Okay? So it's the continuation of physical reality. When you go to Gödel's theorem. I'm not sure if I'll explain it. It's the theory of indeterminacy. That means that any complex system that is basically, that exists cannot be complete. That means that through reductionism is science. What is reductionism? Means that you take the problem, you take it to components, small components, you prove each component being true. Therefore, when you assemble all of them, then you resolve the problem. You know now how the law works, right? This Gödel proved that science cannot reach the point because the systems are so complex that you reach a point that you cannot prove it or disprove it. So this science, and this was an uproar in between 40s to 50s when they discovered these laws. All the materialists that said, look, everything in the universe is objective, is provable, is scientifically provable. They found out through their own laws that that's not possible. That means that you cannot prove those systems in the same model that you do physical reality. So this boundary of reality that exists, that is ever moving, as the new laws comes in, obviously new discoveries of physical reality comes in, there should be a set of laws that controls it. Otherwise, humanity self-destruct. So that's really where God sends this manifestation with this new set of laws. See? So these new metaphysical laws that come in with the new manifestation. Now, is the new set of laws maybe contradicting some of the old ones? It may be. But these are laws that apply to the complex systems. That means it applies not to the individual, but combined. Is laws of family, laws of corporations, laws of community, laws of society.
Civil obedience.
Right. So these are, see, the minute you put two people together, now you require certain moral standard. As long as you have individual, you don't have that problem. You have to follow those unitary laws that existed throughout the universe, and this, which is basically these characteristics of God that we have to apply to ourselves. The minute you have two people in a room, you fall into the other laws. Why? Because now you have to interact. Now, what regulates this interaction depends on the environment that these two people are. During Muhammad's time, because there were so many wars and status of women was so low at that time, he actually created a set of laws that were acceptable to the community, executable, and prevented harm at that time. Because there are so many wars, there was no social system to take care of women, and the only alternative for women was really prostitution. There was nothing else that they could do. So this methodology was devised to really protect women. So none of the laws during the manifestation's time, all of them are objective. They're correct, they should have been applied. The minute new manifestation comes in, all those laws becomes renewed. Some of them will change, most of them really is incremental, is added to it. So what we call metaphysical laws is the laws that controls human behavior. Now, why do you need to abide by the new manifestation? Not, you say, look, wasn't Jesus a manifestation of God? Didn't he bring laws of God? Of course he did. Of course he is the messenger of God. Of course the status of Jesus, there is no difference between Jesus, Muhammad, or Buddha, or Krishna, or Baha'u'llah, for example. Reality is this, that those metaphysical laws that was mandated for that period of time, when the use of it terminates, if you use it in another period, it causes harm. That's why the new manifestation comes in, to reverse some of those, to add to it. That's what we call metaphysical laws. And they're all objective. This is really a very interesting aspects about this new manifestation, that its completeness, as I was discussed, that it doesn't leave those instructions to somebody else to translate. The person themselves have to read it, have to comprehend it, have to execute it. What this does, it eliminates, and this is the whole concept that we saw in the Western culture, that professing equality of man and woman and legislating it doesn't solve the problem. Still, those atrocities to women occurs in this country and everywhere in the world. So legislating some process, putting laws and punishing people in this world if they don't comply with it or fine them would not solve the problem. It's through education. You see, when children grow up, you have to educate them and infuse them with these metaphysical laws that they do not discriminate against women because this is laws of God. The consequences not only is in this world, it's in subsequent world as well. So if you harm someone because you're not following metaphysical law, not only you see the punishment in this world, you see it in all subsequent worlds. So that's the reason we need to comply with the latest manifestation of God. Not that the prior ones are false, they're correct, but they're not applicable. It's like having a roadmap in a map of 18th century Manhattan, right? Now you're sitting in 170th Street in Harlem, you don't know where you are, right? And you're reading this map. There is no way you can get to downtown. Why? Because you don't know where you are. The map you're looking at is very old. You can't check the signs against your map. The sign says 158th Street, and there was no 158th Street. So for you to get where you want to go, first you need to know where you are. And you have to use the latest map to get where you want to go. So this is really what the reality of metaphysical laws are, and they are objective. That means whether you're a very good person, the richest person, the most eloquent person, if you discriminate against women, you fall into the problems that violation of that law occurs. It doesn't matter what communities they are. Now, if you look at humanity today, just pick any Greenpeace that occurred, this unity of mankind, equality of man and woman, universal financial system, which is occurring now, universal language, right? These are universal currencies. All these elements, if you look at the source of it, is right in the Baha'i religion. So people think that they found it, they want to execute it. Why do they want to execute it? Because it helps them. You see? It's a law, it's an axiom. Look at countries that discriminate against women. They're mostly Muslim countries, right? They're most backward. Why? Because they basically jailed 50% of their population. So their productivity deteriorates. So if you violate, the punishment is very severe. And you feel it here, today. Not only today, in the worlds to come. So these are metaphysical laws that are objective, and it really doesn't matter who violates them. Whether you're a very good religious Christian and violate against, for example, you have a racial prejudice or gender prejudice, you're going to harm yourself, you're going to harm people around you. It doesn't matter, you see? So the source of it, and what Christians call Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is synonymous with the words of God, written words of God. So obviously you want to comply with the latest one. Otherwise you're going to cause harm. Unknowingly, you're going to cause harm. You're going to be in error. You don't want to be in error. You want to be controlled, in control. Even if you want to make a mistake, like smoke cigarette, because I like it. But at least you do it with the full knowledge of what the reality is. And this is what metaphysical laws are purely objective. That means that it doesn't matter what religion you have, what sciences you know. If you violate them, you're going to harm yourself and society. And any complex system, short of yourself, because your soul is unitary, is simple, it never gets destroyed, falls into the other model. That means that you have to apply Holy Spirit laws. You have no choice. Otherwise, you cause error. Unknowingly, you harm someone. And this is really what the whole concept of metaphysical laws are, and progressive revelations of them. That means that when Adam came in, he brought a set of laws. He didn't change those basically attributes of God that we all follow. But laws that brought in for human interaction, two souls that are trying to achieve the same thing fall into this set of laws, this Holy Spirit laws, that is ever increasing. New set of laws are coming.